5-023 meeting to order. Please turn off all your electronic devices. If you would like to talk, please take it in the hallway because it's a small room and we don't want it to interfere with the recording to make sure we get the notes corrected. If I'm not mistaken, the chamber is open. If you would like to go over to the chamber and look at the meeting, this budget meeting on the screen in the chamber. Let the record show that all council members are here except council member Boyd. Mr. Taylor, did you hear from council member Boyd?
I have not.
Okay. So I'm assuming there's a presentation first. I don't have any.
Yes, I think we do we have citizen comment first?
Please bring the agendas down.
So anyway, citizen comments, if you would like to speak, do we have sheets to sign up or do
Yes.
they? Okay, please sign up for citizen comments. Mr. Cagle, who's the timekeeper for 4 minutes? Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Wilson is the timekeeper. Ms. Wilson, let me know. Do we have anybody signed up for citizen comments? If not, we're moving forward. So with that being, do we have anybody?
Yeah, we've got one here.
Okay, who is the? Once again, I'm gonna ask you to keep your voice low because this is a small room. You do have the option to go in the chamber if you would like to have a sidebar conversation. You do have that option to go in there.
We're gonna have another one next.
I'm good.
Mayor. Oh. There you go. Us versus them. All the city over there. All the.
All right, the meeting is in order. I'm gonna say it one more time. If you would like to have any sidebar conversations, the chamber is open. This room is small, and this is a meeting that we're having. So please be respectful. So the citizen comments on the agenda item, this section allows members of the public to address the council regarding an item other than a public hearing item on the agenda for council consideration. Each person shall sign up in advance, may speak only one time, and such address shall be limited to 4 minutes. A majority of the city council is required, because we do have a quorum, for any time extension. That means you have to vote to give them an extra minute. The mayor and council members should have 1 minute to respond to citizen comments with a statement or explanation without engaging in dialogue. The item for discussion at the workshop is DS-25-005, receive input and priorities fiscal year 2026 budget. With that being said, our assistant city manager, she will let me know when the 4 minutes is up. When they start speaking, please start the clock. First person, Melissa Brown, you have 4 minutes.
Thank you. I want to start off by saying that I understand the budget is a really long, arduous, and difficult process. Everyone's going to have their own priorities. But I feel like in the past, we've put priorities in the wrong place. When we're spending tens of millions of dollars on parks, instead of building new fire stations, hiring new police personnel, taking out bonds so that we can expand the police station, I think we have our priorities in the wrong place, because parks are nice, but they're not a necessity. If we're not safe, then who's going to go to the parks anyway? So I think that this year would be a great idea if we could put more emphasis on safety, not just in the buildings and the structures themselves, but in making sure that we're giving not raises that are going to make sure that we're able to retain our employees, not just in first responders, but citywide. I would actually say, and I know that there are a lot of department heads here that I know and I respect, but I would say that we need to put more emphasis on making sure that the people who make less than $100,000 are getting larger raises. If you're making more than $100,000, maybe you don't need a 4 or an 8 or a 12% raise. In addition, there's issues in North Killeen with water lines. Now, most of them, it's been determined, are on the personal side of that, the private side. However, there are ways that the city can still help out. Some of these property owners honestly don't have the money to go in and replace them. So putting together a grant program that would be available for private owners that are in these areas, specifically that have the water line issues, to assist them in replacing them. Safe drinking water should also be a top priority for the city council. I'm not saying we have to pay for everybody's private lines, but a merit-based or financially based program where at least there's a percentage share would be a great idea. And again, let's stop putting so much money into the parks. We've got sidewalks that need to be done. We've still got areas where sidewalks are broken or non-existent, where children are walking. 2 years ago, the city council promised that they would put a priority on Elms Road specifically to put in street lights, to put in sidewalks, to put in crosswalks, to put in stoplights, to make sure that people can safely cross the street there after multiple pedestrian deaths. I think that it's important you go back and remember what the priorities were, and then make sure that you incorporate them now. Just because they didn't make it into last year's budget doesn't mean you can't incorporate them into this year's budget. So going back and doing that, I think should be a big emphasis. And let's stop putting emphasis on building new structures like a great big city hall when there are alternatives that we can do, so we can put more money into solid waste, so we can have more drivers. We're going to need more drivers. We're going to need more vehicles. We're building more and more residential units. The more residential units we build, the more we're going to have that staffing. We're going to have to increase street staffing, because now you're adding more roads that we're going to end up responsible for as you approve more and more subdivisions to be built. So let's take a look at the infrastructure, the safety, and the staffing before we worry about luxuries like parks and extra buildings. Thank you.
Sean Price, 4 minutes.
Yeah, so we're looking at spending, right? And I'm curious about how much are we spending on the loans that we already have for the city. If I got it correct, it was service to debt was before we took out the 90 million, racked up to within $2 million of busting our credit rating for a city, right? According to Mr. Cable, right? Where are we at now with all the money that we're borrowed as a city? I got to pay it back. I'm the one that's responsible. You guys can just leave and go wherever you want, right? After you get done here. And I'm kind of stuck in Cleveland. So I don't like paying for money that we borrow when I don't, when I disagree with the spending of it, right? I don't like the city hall. I don't like the idea. I make that very clear. Because I think that we can do so much more with this building and with the other buildings, right? It's understood that if it's decayed and dilapidated or whatever, then let's go ahead and build that new building. But we don't have that in this case, right? And if you build a new building, you still have to maintain that building. So the cost doesn't trade off with renovating other buildings or their maintenance. That's a fallacy, right? But if I could get an information, right? Because every time I ask for a question, I get a cabal of word salad answer, right? And never the answer. How much are we spending on our debt? What is it costing us? Right now, we're spending $1 trillion on just what we borrow nationally. $1 trillion nationally for just the debt. It's more than our defense budget. And we're going in debt more here as a city. And the state of Texas is doing the same thing. They're behind. Sooner or later, it all fails. And I just want, I understand that we have to have infrastructure. I understand that we need to have all the facilities and all the roads and everything like that. But I don't think that paving a road in front of the VFW fixes our problems, right? I think that we need to really have priority assessments done with spending. And that's it, and then that justified when you come out to the meeting. Justify the spending, right? Don't tell me you're going to build an HOA and use fascist techniques to govern people in their neighborhoods and then restrict their infrastructure that they actually pay for, that you force them to pay for, right? Through your decisions. And it's not malice. I'm not saying it's malice or it's hate or anything like that. It's just the nature of government. But the spending is getting crazy for some of the stuff that we're spending on. And if we're gonna worry about some things, the things that I see are the homeless. They're everywhere. They're all over the place. So I agree with putting money into the homeless epidemic. And I agree with putting money into the infrastructure for streets and all this other stuff. But actually look at the hazmat light, because we're putting in out there on Featherline, we're putting in a hazmat area that seeps out when it catches fire, and they do catch fire often, right? Those batteries, cyanide gas, and you got a high school and you got the police department right next door to it. I don't know how you evacuate a jail, but maybe it can be done within minutes. I don't know. But there are a lot of things that aren't being looked at. That's my statement. Thank you.
Kristen Wright, you have 10 minutes. If anybody else that walked in late would like to sign up, please do. Staff, I hope you're listening, because after them, I will be asking questions.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for the opportunity to weigh in on priorities for next year's budget. I don't envy you your job in having to actually make these decisions. As has been mentioned, and always is, the dilemma between what do we invest in to hopefully generate revenue with what do we spend money on to serve the people of this community is the greatest question before us. So I only will weigh in on 2 priorities. There are many more, but hoping that you'll think seriously about these 2 as you deliberate. The first is one that is, some people may not see the value, but I'd ask you to dig deep. It is an investment, and the return on investment over years, other cities that have done this is hundreds of thousands, if not millions. And it is investing in a staff person to be able to go through the process of the grant application with the Texas Art Commission to have a cultural and arts designated district. Once that is accomplished, and it takes a year, and they require that the city has shown that investment or you get denied, once gotten, both the city and other nonprofits can apply for grants from the state and federal art commissions, hundreds of thousands of dollars that go directly to people who are employed in this city, elevating our downtown area that will increase tourism and have economic benefit. There is an investment up front. The second is, I would ask that in looking at issues of homelessness, substance abuse addiction, mental health treatment, where we know we have holes, we know we have unmet needs, and the cost to fill those seem very high when you're looking at buildings and psychiatrists. There's a workforce development opportunity that we have not tapped into nearly as much as we could, called peer support professionals. They are people who have lived experience of proven recovery and stability. Our police force, our fire departments are familiar with this in their departments. Other cities have leveraged this profession to meet the needs of civilians as well, much more cost effectively than hiring. No offense to clinicians, clinicians are needed. There's a labor shortage and it's expensive. We can wrap around our emergency personnel, our clinicians, with lay people who have been trained and are supervised and can, through their lived experience and training, wrap around supported apartments, the crisis shelters, emergency rooms, and really other states and countries have shown outcomes of reduced recidivism, relapse, suicide, incarceration, and crime. The statistics are there. The mechanism of employing and supervising these people exists in Texas. It's Medicaid and Medicare reimbursable, so it does not have to be state funded, city funded forever. It's creating a workforce that draws down state and federal money into our city and increases safety. And it's a workforce development for people who tend to have major obstacles re-entering workforce. Veterans, others who have had mental illness due to trauma or addiction now have an actual employment pathway and purpose to contribute to the well-being of our city. So I've asked you to look at nonprofits and the city's efforts and help us coordinate that effort as well for our city. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
Madam Mayor?
Anybody else that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Cooper. Oh, you would like to speak?
Yes, that's what I was trying to
I can wait till you turn in the paper to me. You have 4 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to jump in real quick. Obviously, piggybacking off of Ms. Krista, the amazing work that her organization does for the downtown area. So I'm always going to come in and advocate for downtown, and not because I have a personal benefit for it, but it's because I am surrounded by 60 other businesses that do need the advocacy. Everybody isn't comfortable in front of a camera. I don't mind it for a quick second. We're advocating for the downtown culture as a whole. Every other city surrounding us, your downtown is supposed to be your cultural activity hub. And so when we have people that come into the area talking about downtown, it's not because we want more money poured into the space for us personally, it's for what it does for your city. And so again, we've got amazing businesses, amazing organizations in the area. And so of course, I'm always going to come in and talk about just the small business development aspect of investing into the downtown. And I think what the city has done in intentionally putting some attention on our area, not only is it good for the businesses, is it good for the area, but it also increases the property values of the properties around you, which generate more property taxes, revenue. But when you were talking in reference to the arts district, there are different grant opportunities that the city can apply for if you do designate certain parts of your downtown as specific industries. We have tech businesses that are downtown. We have art businesses downtown. We have media, we have food, we have entertainment. We can also start tapping into those individualized grants that are out there nationwide, state, and federally that our city can benefit from. Again, when you grow that activity space, it allows you to have a better conversation when we're talking about development for resources for the North Killeen area. When we're talking about grocery stores, they've said specifically, you need more development. And as a city, we need to see you commit to growing this side of town, because not only does this side of the town not have the income necessary to be generated for investing hundreds of millions of dollars into it, it doesn't have an increase of substantial growth in the area. And so that's why the city has committed to the to the downtown area, because it then generates more foot traffic, which is why you have the Rancier projects, which is why you have the conversations about the Bell County Annex coming into the area. And so it's not to say, hey, focus on this area, but what it does say is for decades, the area was not focused on. And I think as a city, you want to try to find where is it that we missed the mark in growing the particular area, and it is our downtown, it is our North Killeen. And so I feel like the city has seen an obvious change in what happens when you do invest money into the area. And so now there are opportunities for the Main Street Grant Program that we were able to tap into. We got being awarded multiple awards for the development in the downtown area. And so again, it will help opportunities like the nonprofits that come into the area and commit to fixing and partnering with different businesses. It helps with the homeless activity and how do we engage in that untapped resource and other grants. You've got amazing nonprofit organizations and business owners who really want to see this city grow. And so I feel like, again, I'm always going to come in and talk about downtown, but it really is as a holistic approach to how do you add other resource and revenue generating activities into your city. So that's all I got to say. Thank you all.
Anybody else for citizen comments? Citizen comments are closed. Staff, starting with Mr. Reynolds. One of the things that was talked about was, would you please discuss drivers for solid waste? Do we need, how are we with our solid waste drivers when it comes to that resource? And also Ames Road, it was discussed that it was a promise, one of the priorities for the city for roads, sidewalks, and lights, and also for Zephyr Road. Why should we invest in Zephyr Road? Can you address those items, please?
I will address the.
And the reason I want staff to address it, so the council, if there's something you, and Mr. Zager, thank you for being here, you can jump in. So they already know, so we won't have to continue to go over these items that we heard, and they're trying to put resources, revenue into it. I know Zephyr Road's already taken care of. So I'm just saying, we're gonna address the residents, and then you have a clear-cut idea on your priorities, if that was one of them. Yes, sir.
On the solid waste driver, I mean, yes, the city is growing, but that's something we look at every budget cycle when we go through the budget with the solid waste budget with the city manager. About 2 years ago, we did add 3 drivers to that team. As the city continues to grow, we will continue to look at that every budget cycle. It's considered and it's added as needed. Right now, we're adequately staffed on the residential side and the commercial side, so we any additional staff will be discussed in the budget cycle, but we're good right now, and we are monitoring, and we do get updates as the city, as houses are built. We do get those updates, so we're tracking that. We get the flags to know what's going on, so we're able to add drivers as it happens. But it takes about 3,200 new homes to substantiate a new route, so that's kind of how we measure that. And for Zephyr Road and
Ames Road, sidewalks, lights.
Mr. Zager's.
Mr. Zager?
So on Elms Road, we did add more lights along that corridor, so there are new street lights along that corridor from Fort Hood all the way to Tremere. In regard to the sidewalks and improvements of that, we do have a capital project we proposed and started last year. It'll be again submitted this year's CIP through the budget review to add those sidewalks along that corridor. So that's just something we need to find funding for, make sure that's a capital project we're going to look at. Also, there's SS4A, Safe Routes, that's a tech staff grant program. This year is the first year we could actually apply for some of those grants. So that's one of those potential projects we can apply for as well to see if we can get some state funding for.
The lights?
Street lights, there actually are new lights out there right now.
All right, and another one was that Mr. Reynolds or Mr. Zagers, we're not, this is me paraphrasing it, we're not taking care of the people on the north side, replace water line, they need clear drinking water. I know Councilwoman Gonzalez brought this up. I know I've spoken to you, Mr. Reynolds, in reference to this, and you said we had a plan. Did I miss something?
So we have the water line rehab program is going on right now. There's a contractor out there that's actively working. That is, all their work is on the north end of I-14. That's the first phase they're looking at. We're also doing another phase of the sanitary sewer rehab, which is also north of 14 in the north end. They're doing smoke testing of the sewer lines, trying to find the leaks, doing checking visual inspections of all the manholes as well. So those two are going on hand, or ongoing right now.
And with our water meter replacement program, it started on the north side of Killeen. We installed 5,000 initially. We're almost done with the second 5,000 with the automated metering system. And infrastructure that we put in the AMI, that started on the north side as well. As far as the clean water, I mean, everybody cleans the same water, so if it's clean on the south side, it's clean on the north side. If there's issues, we will always address that, but the water's been safe, it's been tested. TCQ just came through about 2 weeks ago. There's no issues there. Yeah, we're here to address any issues that might arise.
All right, the other question, I heard something about hazmat on Feather Line. Is there a hazmat concern about, on Feather Line where the jail is concerned, the school is concerned?
That was in regard to the Encore, that battery storage facility that they came to council about a year ago or so.
I remember that.
It's I believe it was addressed during that whole time. The manufacturer was talking about the safety, how the safety is ensured during that development, and I don't believe we had any concerns at that time.
Thank you. Ms. Tiffany, your questions will be Downtown Arts District and also the reunification, the homeless shelter. I know you're very active in that in reference to, we know we have interns at colleges that can come in, but I do know we need a commission to be in place for them to serve under for any volunteer work, an internship. And I don't really know about the program that was mentioned with Texas Workforce. So on that, with the psychiatrist, the social work, the mental health services that is needed, you briefed us on it, and you did tell the council that you was working with other services in nonprofit. Can you go in more detail with that? To ensure that we have the things that we need? Do we need to budget in this, make it a priority?
Well, starting with your first item, the cultural designation, that is something that myself, Amanda Wilkinson, who is the director of the K3C, brought before council more than a year ago. And during that presentation, we said we would revisit this in January 2026 because we have done the research and study to see what other cities have done to get to the point to where they submit a viable application. Now, we can put in an application, but I don't advise putting in applications when you know that you don't check all the boxes.
You're not competitive.
Correct.
Yes, you did say that.
So, as we have moved through that, we have taken consultation with Mrs. Meshier and Kay Casito to talk about what the steps should be that make sense for the city and also for the planning process. It's something that Kate brought up, which was significant because I wasn't here at the time, was in the development of the 2040 comprehensive plan. She said that is where the idea came about to actually hire a downtown revitalization staff person for the city of Killeen. So with that, and reading the application myself, last year we did put forth a decision package to hire a consultant to help us create a plan for a cultural district here, which may lead to the need to hire a staff person to manage and to oversee that, but we haven't gotten there. That decision package didn't go through last year. We will resubmit this year. But once we get to that point, then we can start engaging to see what are the actual needs that need to be in any area you would want to be designated as a cultural district, including a number of locally ran and operated restaurants of different ethnicities, a number of hotels, Airbnb, walkability of the area, and most important, it's not up to the city staff to say this is going to be the cultural district. You have to engage the community. All of that is a part of the process. And while some of the designations we have received, whether it's Main Street or more recently, the music-friendly Texas designation that again Ms. Wilkinson and the other Civic and Visitors Bureau staff work on, things happen in a way that we can achieve them and obtain them. So right now we're not in that space, but we can get there. if we start with the consultant to see what we need to do, how long is that going to take? Like the 2040 plan, that's a 20-year plan. And then we could find out that this cultural district is maybe a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan, but at least we want to do it right. So that's speaking to that. And then as far as nonprofits who wish to go after some of those state or federal grants that are available to the nonprofit, I'm not sure, and I know I'm not telling council what to do, but there are times where a council could provide a letter of support to the nonprofit and they can apply themselves. But if we're not in a position to maybe move that forward, or we're not even an eligible applicant, some of these grants, local government are not eligible to apply. And the best they can do is give a letter of support to the applicant agency. That is something that can be considered going forward, but right now, we are building the blocks to get there. And we want to make sure that when we apply, we know that on the other side of that submission is a yes.
Yes, ma'am. But you are currently working with nonprofit organizations for the reunification program.
So yes, we have getting to the reunification program, we do have where we work with Syntex Art for substance abuse intervention and support. Of course, we're with Friends in Crisis with their shelter that they have there. I can't speak to the volume of agencies that Sergeant Moore and his team in the community engagement unit that they work with directly, but through some of our funding with the CDBG for that social worker, and also we have a line item activity for community engagement that allows them to do community outreach and link people to those agencies. That is actually happening. This workforce development peer support professionals, right now, today we did open the home art application for funding. Within home art, the city designated $700,000 for supportive services. So if someone or an organization that is eligible wishes to apply, they could apply to see which categories of the supportive services they could say that they could provide to these people that are a qualified population. Is very detailed. We do have additional materials available for them to research themselves, but that is available today if they want to apply.
Thank you so much. Chief Lopez, one of the things was safety, and I know this council have gone beyond to give the fire department and the police department everything needed. Safety is one of the many priorities that this council have for the city. How is safety? Do you need more officers? Is that something that you're going to add to the budget? Have the council met your needs with the resources that you need to protect our city?
In terms of resources, yes, the council has supported us, and we appreciate that. When it comes to staffing, we're fully authorized to have 265 officers. Right now, we have 19 police officers in the academy, and this morning we started another hiring process with 32 applicants. So we hope by the middle of April, we will be close to fully staffed. But that doesn't mean we're going to have those officers available on the street right now. We have to wait till they finish their training and their TO program. But right now, with the current staffing level, I think we could protect the city. Now, when it comes to the downtown area, we have allocated additional resources. We designated the downtown area as a pop zone, which means that we have officers assigned to that area 24 hours a day, especially at night when we have less coverage. So we are putting our resources where we need them, and it's been very successful. There's been a few incidents, but of course we can't control all of the crime, but with the staffing we currently have, I think we could adequately protect the city. But in the future, as the city continues to grow, it might be an agenda item next year, or budget item next year will be increased staffing. That's something Mr. Cable and I already spoke about, but at this time right now, we have enough staff.
But you also have officers in school that once they complete, they will fill some of those positions.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Chief Kabinski, the resources, do you have the resources that you needed to ensure the city is safe?
Yes, ma'am. We've been very pleased over the last 4 years with the progress the fire department has made. In regards to our staffing, we've increased our staffing for Fire Station 4. Those personnel came on board in January. They will be ready to go when the station opens. In addition to adding an 9th ambulance prior to the opening of Station 4, that currently runs out of our central station. So the fact that we have increased by 33 personnel just in the 4 years that I've been here is something that is unheard of when I talk to my peers at other fire departments. So we have all the resources that we need, and we continue to assess and evaluate those needs, and we communicate those each year as the priorities come through.
Thank you, sir. And the, next to the last question is our loans for the city service debt, that we're in debt. I don't know about that.
I can answer that.
One more question before I go in there. And then the 4% cost of living allowance, I would like to announce that with Mr. Cagle, why we gave our staff a cost of living. And one of the things was that if you're not at $100,000, you need to be at $100,000. Please just say, how does that work? Because everybody's on a plan. It's a step. You have to be here so many years, so just overall, general, just to the point.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Cagle, your time.
So all this information is online if you look up the city budget, and there's a great amount of detail on the city's debt. You can look up every individual debt issue, see how long before it's paid off. If you want to look at the summary to answer that question, it's page 348, and it is $17.9 million.
I was gonna say, that wanted that information as well.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, but it's being recorded. Okay, and one of the things was the giving the 4% COLA across the board. One thing this council did, our priorities last year, we wanted to retain employees, and we wanted to compete with the market. And that was something that the employees wanted. And then with the civil service, they get a raise based on their pay grade and the time that they get that raise. So please.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. Civil services actually have a step, and they go up every year. And on top of that, it's the COLA percentage that is designated or allocated once we go to the budget process. Last year, we afford to give 4% COLA, and that's what we give up to all employees. Civil services give that on top of their steps.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. And the last thing that I think, parks are a part of quality of life. When the summer comes and as the city grow, and you can, Mr. Murphy, you can tune in whenever you want to or not. We want them to have quality of life. Some families cannot afford. I know when I first came here, I didn't have money to go to these big places for entertainment and stuff, but I could take my daughter out there, we could throw the ball around, kick the ball around. Every community needs a park, and as we grow, that's why we have our park master plan in place. Everything is in place. And the master plan is a part of our comprehensive plan, which is quality of life. Now, if you want to shed on that, I don't want y'all, if you want to upgrade a park in your community, not saying we got the money, and that may not be the top priority right now. A statement was made that parks should not be a top priority. Why are parks important, Mr. Murphy?
Well, man, you touched on it. It's just that quality of life is building community. Not everybody can afford to go to the more expensive charged items for recreation or leisure pursuits. There are any number of studies that say if you increase the building and development of parks, it helps offset and decrease crime by giving. Parks speaks to mental health, by giving people a place to go out and release energies that are pent up. So building these parks are instrumental to having a better quality of life, attracting a better quality of citizen, and watching the community grow. You're talking about building subdivisions with 500, 1,000, 1,500 houses, but where are the kids that are going to be able to go in the community? Where are the citizens going to be able to go in the community to be able to release workday stress, everyday life stresses? That's what our parks do. You know, they are a place that we can go out and breathe. It brings in trees. We offset climate warming, global warming. So the benefits of parks are countless, and there are many number of research studies out there that support this. It's just that, you know, I inherited a situation where past administrations may not have the importance of parks, but we're trying to get back to the point where we're engaging community, and that parks are a staple of engaging community. So they are instrumental in any society that wants to see an engaged populace that's invested in their homes, raises property values, all of the above. So.
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Thank you, thank you. So council, moving forward, I hope this is the philosophy we'll take, that when questions are asked, you get the staff that this is the experts with the degrees to support that, certifications to support. And I thank you, staff, I thank you, Mr. Cagle, for that. And if I miss anything else that may have been a question from council, I think I covered everything. So with that being said, do council have any questions from, let the record show, Councilmember Boyd is here. Yes, sir. And I'm gonna ask one more time, the sidebar conversations, please. If you would like to have conversations, we have the big old conference, the chamber over there, where you can go over there and talk and look at the video. Any questions for staff?
Comment.
Okay, no questions?
I was going to make a comment.
Yes, sir.
Well, first, I just want to quickly apologize for being late. I want anyone to think I dropped the ball, because I still have it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that passionate response about parks. You understand their value, and you were able to explain that being a parks director, so we do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, so we're gonna start with priorities. Mr. Cagle, do we have a presentation before we get started, or we can just go into it with council?
We can go right, got a presentation.
Okay, we can do that first, so they
Yes.
can have a working knowledge.
Mhm.
Okay, whenever you're ready, sir.
Yes, ma'am, and I'll be fairly brief. This is, no, you're fine. This is what we're gonna cover. A couple of the first ones are just, going back over things we already know, just to let you know kind of what our focus is. Then the budget process calendar. We'll give you a little information on projections for the 26 budget, and then turn it over to you for your input. If you'll remember, these things come out of our comprehensive plan, our values, what our assets are, and our aspirations. I don't want to spend time on this. We want to get to this is very important. That's why we put it in here. But get to the detail. And the big idea is resource stewardship, our shared responsibility and a positive culture, a local business ecosystem, and everyone deserves access to a safe, affordable, and efficient mobility system. Neighborhoods, not subdivisions, make great places, and vibrant downtowns are valuable places. Those are 6 big ideas, and just about everything we do in this budget, you can link back to those big ideas. So where we are right now, we're up here in February, where the council establishes budget priorities, and then after that, January to March, we begin work on the budget, and you go down to April and May, departments will submit their budget proposals as we put everything together. And then in June, prepare the presentation for a preliminary budget to be submitted to council in July. And then August and September, whatever changes are made, increases, decreases, and then August to September, the council will adopt a new budget for the fiscal year. So we are here establishing budget priorities. And once again, in February, this is today, the next things we've got to work on, staff has already started a lot of work on the fee schedule with any changes that go along with our governing standards, how we present those to the public. In June, we'll have a budget preview for you and go over the fee schedule again, as we'll hear from our community partners. June 17th, public hearing on the fees. July 1st, you will receive proposed budget and set date for public hearing and proceed to CIP. July 22nd, public hearing on the budget. Now, because of so many calendars of the charter calendar, state regulations, we'll have to have a special meeting. That happens. We usually have to have a special meeting on the budget. August 5th is where you set a preliminary tax rate, make changes to the budget. And then if changes are made, another public hearing August 19th, and then September 2nd is where all the adoption will be done. So now I'm going to give you I think last year we failed a little bit in not putting things into perspective, kind of where we are. In your budget document, just like we have lots of detail on expenditures and our debt service, every year we do a 5-year financial forecast that's in the budget. Now remember, forecasts are they're almost always going to be wrong. But what it does is it forces you to think about the future the assumptions that we make, the parameters that we set, given those, what does the future look like? And that's the purpose of making these forecasts. And I'll show you that in just a moment, but just to give you some ideas, right now in the preliminary budget that we're working on, we're working off of a 4% pay increase, and in just the general fund, that costs $3.6 million. If you want to add one new police officer, it's $103,000 in salary and benefits, then a new vehicle. So the first year cost is $204,000. Now that would drop obviously in the next year. You're not going to buy a vehicle every year. And then if you'll remember, we have had 18 steps in our civil service pay plan. There are 6 intervals in there where from one year to the next there's no increase. And so the idea is to eliminate those steps with no increase. And so an officer or firefighter would top out in 12 years instead of 18. We took that first step last year, or year before, we went from 18 to 17. And in this budget, it shows going from 17 to 16. It's a small cost. Because of where people are in the fire department and the steps, there's no cost there in the next budget year, and a almost $11,000 cost in police. We started working from the top of the pay plan down, and the plan is to do this 1 step a year until we're down to 12 steps. So it's later in the future, these will get a little more expensive. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cable, when you go back to
Yes.
17 to 16, that means, is that 16 years in, or?
Yes, ma'am. So if you're not right, well, right now, as we said, there are 17 steps. So when you start as a police officer, there are 17 steps. In 17 years, you top out. When you reach that top as a police officer or firefighter, the only increase you get from there on is whatever the cost of living. That's the way it is for all the other employees, the non-civil service employees. But as long as you're in those steps, even if the city gives 0 cost of living, in most steps, you're going to have an increase in that year.
So with our officers, once they get to that, they get $10,752.
No, ma'am. So what we're doing is going from 17 steps to 16. That eliminates one of those years where there's no increase, and the cost for the whole police department is $10,752.
Okay, for the whole.
Yeah, and it doesn't cost anything fire just because of where people are in the steps right now.
Okay, thank you.
In future years, this number would be bigger. Then to take a look at our general fund forecast on revenues. The things, the big assumptions that are made, a 48 cents maintenance and operations tax rate, that is less, and you'll see we get less property tax in the forecast than we have in the budget that we're in right now. And that's, we'll have to make a change from M&O over to debt for the recent CO issue. We're projecting a 2.5% increase in the tax value, and that we budgeted $2 million in disabled vet exemption reimbursement from the state, and I'll show you a little bit more on that in a couple of slides. Then when we look at the expenditures, the major assumptions are 4% COLA, a 3% increase in operational costs, and we've included the Fire Station 4 personnel. So where we are right now shows a total expenditure of 129. And so right now this shows a deficit of 2.4 million. I wouldn't get too carried away with this right now. Almost every city in the state, when you're this early in the budget process, you're forecasting some sort of deficit. And if you remember our calendar, department heads haven't submitted their budgets. This is a general 3% across all operations. So there's every likelihood we're going to be going through this very closely, and the idea is to get that down to 0. But as I said, the purpose of doing the forecast is kind of give you an idea of where things are. So knowing that we're going to have to work really hard to balance this budget with what we have right now doesn't means there's not going to be a lot of money for anything else. If we look historically at the general fund, here are our expenditure totals back in '22, and then you go out to the actual of '24, you can see all of our fund balances remain strong. If we'd gone back to '22, when we were forecasting, I assure you we forecasted some deficits, but those never happen because we make changes one way or another to ensure that they don't. But where we're sitting today, we're in a strong financial position. Then we move on to looking at the future. Here's our adopted budget, and we still have a strong ending fund balance. And then you look at the forecast, based on those same type of assumptions that we made all the way through. If you don't fix this deficit, then it grows the next year. If you don't fix that, then it grows. But even if this thing were on autopilot with all those assumptions, you haven't spent all of your fund balance, but we are below in 27 or 28, we get below our recommended fund balances. So this is not, once again, you can see we still making no changes at all. We still have fund balance and we don't go below recommended balance until 27. So I would tell you this is a pretty decent position to be in. The main caution is there's just not a lot of, there won't be any extra money for added programs. It's the way it looks at this point. Now, I told you I would talk a little bit about the disabled veterans exemption because it's a significant, could be a significant change in the future budget. Right now, in this budget, we lose $13.77 million to the exemption. You can see how it's grown over the years. When it started in 2008, we lost $350,000. Another way to look at this is back when it started in 2008. You see we got no reimbursement until the current law was passed, that those cities and counties that are adjacent to a military installation and lose more than 2% of their general fund revenue to the disabled veterans, you get some reimbursement. But you can see the first year we were reimbursed 31% of the losses that we had. The most we've ever received was in 2020. We received 49%. Now, the state budget has been relatively the same over time. Right now, it is $9.5 million a year for the whole state. So you can see Killeen loses more than the state is budgeted for reimbursement for all the cities that qualify under the legislation. We're estimating, we're estimating next year, the 26 budget, that this would be about $2 million. And so you may ask why these numbers go down. There's two reasons. I'll go back just a second to here. All the cities that qualify have a similar, not as dramatic as ours, but they have a similar loss. So everybody's losses are going up and the pie has stayed the same, so everybody's share gets smaller. And another thing happened this last year. More cities have become eligible. The big one was El Paso. They crossed that threshold of losing 2% of their general fund revenue to the disabled veterans exemption. So that's another piece of the pie that we have to share. So, 2 more slides. Just a reminder, since actually 2018, if you look, this number is the increase in the disabled veterans exemption. This is the increase in new taxable value. So all the new construction in the city, commercial, multifamily, residential. So let's see, what was that number? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 out of the last 8 years, we've gone in the hole. That the increase in the disabled veterans exemption has been greater than all the new construction in the city. Now, for the good news, let me go back one more time. The good news is the comptroller submitted a budget that recommends an increase. If you remember, I said it's $9.5 million a year. State budget's on a biennium, so it's $19 million that they set aside every 2 years for this. The comptroller recommended an increase of a little over $50 million to get that number to $70 million. Now, I still don't think, I'll go back one more, I don't believe, if that happens, I don't believe we're going to get reimbursed 100%, but we're going to we should do better than our best year of 49%. So if we were to get about half of this, and this will be a different number for 26. We're expecting 2 million. If we get 7, you know, I'm thinking if this happens, there could be $5 to $8 million additional revenue. And then all the things that you can do with that, you can consider rate decreases, you make sure the budget's balanced, then you can look at things like adding police officers, or a larger pay increase, or a larger pay increase for the lower end employees. There's a lot, all those things would be on the table if that budget is adopted. So, and once again, the reason we talk about this is because this was a statewide benefit to be paid for by all state taxpayers, but it falls disproportionately on those communities that support military bases, because that's where the majority of the disabled veterans exemptions occur. And so the rationale behind this legislation that gets us the reimbursement we get right now is to help those communities that are disproportionately impacted. As I've said many times, I have lots of peers around the state, city managers, that have no idea what this is. It's such a small thing in their budget, they don't even notice it. And that's what everybody expected it was going to be. And it is in a lot of areas, but as we know, for us, it's not. And that's the reason we bring this up, because $13.7 million is significant. It is a significant number. And you've got two choices. When you, the people that move in, that have those exemptions, we have two choices. You either increase taxes on everybody else, and there's a limited ability to do that, or you reduce services. Though, essentially, that's what it boils down to. Or the state can reimburse us, which is the preferred option. Now, there was already some discussion about what does a grant writer do for us. Before we talked about that, I wanted just to give you an idea of what we've done with grants going back to 2020. Most of the, and we took ARPA out of this. These are only things that we applied for. Most of this is going to be police, fire, airport, and CDBG money. States, quite a bit going to be police and fire again. These are generally different federal programs, but pretty significant amount from a low of 12.6 to a high of 17.3 million a year. Now, the last thing I have is water and sewer, and I just put general fund, water and sewer, the most significant funds that we have, but also the rest of the funds are in very good, sound financial shape. The next one would be solid waste, and we pay for solid waste drivers and trucks out of the fee you pay on a monthly amount. It does not come from the general fund. It does not come from taxes. It comes from that monthly bill. So, once again, this is a quick look at the water and sewer, and the assumptions are 4% COLA, 3% increase in operations. It includes the proposed 2025 CO in addition to the sewer debt issue that recently occurred at WCID. All of that is included. And so what you see is about a $2 million deficit. We have a number of things we're working on to get that to zero, but that's just where we would stand right now. One more time, just to give you a historical, all of our fund balances are very strong. The water and sewer fund is in strong financial shape, and we want to keep it that way. There's not a lot that we need to be adding in the water and sewer fund, but when you look out through 2029, it's about the same type of issue that you see in the general fund. We need to make sure we get this to zero, and then continue to work in the future to make sure all of those net changes are zero or positive. And then, so that's a little bit of background on the budget, kind of what we know about the 26 budget right now. You remember, department heads have not submitted budgets. That comes later in the year, but this is our best estimate at this point in time. And now, Mayor, turn it over to council for what they would like to see in the upcoming budget.
Thank you for that presentation. I have some questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you present to the council a proposed budget of over $2 million in the negative. Is that what I understand?
No, ma'am, I did not propose that. What I said was this was a forecast based on where we are right now, based on a number of assumptions. I'll go back to the general fund.
I do understand this is not the budget, but forecast, if we go with what you see in the future, it would be minus a negative 2 million plus.
Well, based on these assumptions, it
Correct.
it would.
Because with that just been saying, that's what people take away from it. Not
Yeah,
that
I agree
this
with you.
is, this is not a solid budget. This is just forecasting that if we go this way, you will be minus 2 million. But the capital improvement funding is not in this.
Well, not in the general fund. We just showed the two major funds, general fund and water and sewer. Capital improvement is going to
Is
be
they still
comprised.
working on it?
Well, no, what I tried to, well, yes, we always work on it, but what I tried to present was just the two major funds that generate the most interest. The CIP is funded from all the operating funds. So
Correct.
when we issue COs, the debt service is paid out of the tax rate. If we have savings at the end of the year, that goes to the CIP. And that one, I would say, it just depends on how you look at it. I would say we're in pretty strong shape on the streets. The worst ones we're working on or about to award, and we have a plan for funding in the future. If you want everything fixed right now, no, we're not in great shape. On the water and sewer fund side, we have a great master plan that we're working on to implement to make sure everything works fine for the future and for our future growth. And we are in good shape where we are right now, as long as we continue to implement the plan. So I would think those are the kind of the major aspects of the CIP would be streets and water and sewer.
And I guess my question is for you is that the council's here to give their priorities. We're hearing that, okay, where we at right now, the forecast, whatever word we want to put in front of it, is a negative $2 million. So if the council did have priorities they want to present for the budget, and they're hearing out their ear that it's a forecast, it's a negative 2 million, where are they gonna pull the money for their project is one? And if they do decide, the majority of them, to go with a certain project, where would that money come from, knowing that it's a negative 2 million?
Well, our job is to get it to zero, to see what we can do to get it to zero before we present the budget. And then you would do one of two things. You would either cut expenditures somewhere to fund that new program you want. If I go back here, you can see that.
Because my understanding, the staff haven't even gave you their budget, have they?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I'm listening.
So you either cut positions, you reduce the cost of living adjustment, or you raise revenue in some manner, either taxes or fees.
So the worst scenario that we see and the public see, that if this council make any decisions right now that does not fall in line with this, is either cutting cost of living for employees or cutting the police, which we know the council is not going to do that.
Well, I'll tell you, we will submit a budget, and we'll do everything we can to get council priorities in the budget.
I'm not saying that should be a priority, but I'm just speaking for me, and I can't speak for the council. I'm coming in here to make a decision and talk to the council about what is our priority for the cities as leaders. And I'm looking at a negative. In that case, a forecast, Mr. Adams, a forecast negative. Forecast, negative 2 million. And my concern would be, you guys really don't have a say because we already at negative. Am I the only one, Councilmember Boyd?
That's how I interpret it.
That's what I'm interpreting. Did you interpret that? Did you interpret that? Did you? I know I'm not the only one. Councilmember Sagara.
I have questions.
Yes, sir, please.
All right, thank you. Well, first off, I think I just want to say, a lot of the city priorities are our priorities. I know we're concerned about safety and all that, so I think that we always want to hit the most important ones first, and that's it. And I think that we're in line, and I know the city manager understands that, you know, and we've talked about that, and I think a lot of that stuff is going to be in the budget. You know, we want to take care of our police department, our fire department, our employees. It's always going to be a priority. It's always going to be something that comes first. And then the thing I wanted to ask here, my question here is, because you put up the slide about our grants, you know, the federal
Yes.
grants, it's about 15 million, I think it was.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of that hits those priorities, you know, our fire departments, our chief and all that. But not understanding, you know, are we saying yay or nay or maybe? Will we budget for these, or are we actually, we're going to budget that? Because who knows what's going to happen, you know, we're.
Right. We're just showing you what we've done in the past. For 26, the only things we had budgeted are the things we know, grants that we know we're going to get. We wouldn't budget speculating.
And then the other thing I just want to clarify, because I know the mayor mentioned it, and you kind of mentioned it, our capital improvement projects. And right now, I think our reserve balance is at 27%, is that right? Is that what I saw?
On general fund?
Yeah.
Yes.
27%.
Yes, sir.
And so, just as a refresher, you mentioned the savings, and the savings is the difference between that, and if I'm not mistaken, what is it, 22%?
Yes, sir. Judith, we have a range.
Yes, it's from 18 to 22%.
18?
Yes, sir.
18 to 22%.
Yeah, so we can go all the way down to 18 if we
Yes.
want to, and so I don't think capital improvement, because that's quite a bit of money there, and every year, the good thing is, do you forecast that maintaining at the 27, or that coming down as we get closer to the end of the year for our budget? Is that pretty much where it's going to end up, do you know?
We usually do a little better because we budget conservatively. So we will be bringing the audit to you for fiscal year '24 in March
17th.
March 17th, and there will be excess fund balance in general fund and utility fund.
Yes, that's
Not as much in utility fund, but general fund, $4 to $5 million.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
Yes.
I appreciate it. That's always, I think that's money there that, you know, I know that this council, many councils back planned that and did that. They put that aside. And then the last thing I wanted to ask is our street maintenance fees. I mean,
Yes.
that seems to be doing really good. And you mentioned that if we were to fix streets now, we couldn't do it.
Right.
But I don't think it's because of the budget. I think it's just because we don't have enough manpower.
Yes, sir, it's two things. It is, I mean, if we were to fix all the streets at once, no, we don't have enough money for that. And we don't have anywhere near enough manpower. But I think the important thing to know is that there's a plan in place to go into the future to address all those big needs. Now, the next thing that we will, and I'm talking about all of our arterials, collectors and everything, the next big thing we're going to be talking about are residential streets. And we have a lot of areas where the residential streets are not in good shape.
Yeah. No, and I think for the most part, everybody agrees, you know, once we get Stagecoach fixed, and what's the other one? Those, pretty much everybody, because, you know, even though we're fixing a lot, people still kind of connect to state. When are you guys going to fix Stagecoach?
The bid is on what agenda?
I'll have to figure out, we're reviewing it, but I believe in April.
First in April, I would think.
Yeah.
We have received bids, we're reviewing the bids for phase one of Stagecoach from East Tremere to W.S. Young, the first phase, and at first blush, the bids are under budget, so that's good. So we haven't finished evaluating everything, but they're not over, so that's a good thing.
No, I think it's good to be a little bit conservative, and I think in the end, as you know, we have to have a balanced budget, and we're going to make things happen. I know you are, we don't want to be presented as councils a balanced budget. I was here when that happened. I don't want to go through that again, ever. That was the first year of my mayor. I was like, that was a terrible way to start your mayor. It's like you're $8 million short, and part of that is, we never want to go through this. So no matter what, we're going to make it. And I don't think it's going to be, I feel where we have to cut a lot of services or things. I think that, revenue is going to still continue from that. So. That's all I got, Mayor, thank you.
Do you have any of your priorities since you already started, or you don't have?
No, I'm good,
Because the
I support the
What
city
we had
manager
last
and everything he
year, the
is.
4% COLA across the board,
Yeah, that's
and
good.
also the pay raise for the civil service worker. And we also had, our priority was the health insurance, where they didn't have to pay, their services didn't change on it.
That's good.
Okay,
Well, that's good.
already in there. So I want to make clear again, we're not in debt, a negative $2 million. It is forecast. Councilmember Boyd, you next, you might as well start on this side.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And though you communicate that it's forecasted, somehow it will likely go out the opposite. We're just being real, unfortunately. But to get to the point, I think during the last budget meeting we had last year, there was discussion about the council potentially having access to some sort of dashboard to allow us to understand where the finances are up into meetings like this. You know, being fully transparent is kind of misleading when we're going to discuss priorities, but we find out where we are financially. Now that's just the reality, and that's no one's fault, right? We have expenses and the revenue that we do have. But the only two priorities I had that I hope we take into consideration if there's funding is two specific things. One is a rebranding campaign for the city that I think we could benefit from with all the negative press that we've got. The city's got over the past almost decade and a half. And then with the citizens' understanding of what's happening in the community. That is critical for the city at this point. I brought this up last year, and for us to begin to continue to thrive, we're going to have to rebrand this city. It is going to be an imperative at this point. That's my recommendation, because I can forecast and see how we will continue to be held up if we don't take that on. Those costs, I'm not sure how much it costs to do something like that. I'll actually ask the communication director, that's your background, kind of what that does look like if we did do a rebranding campaign for the city.
She had proposed it in one of her, what you call it? Decision package.
Okay, so, very good, so okay.
You can, no, the floor is yours if you feel like speaking it.
It just depends on how much you want to do. It could be anywhere. Several of our departments have done it. CBB, aviation, downtown. So it could be anywhere from $35,000 to $150,000, depending on what you want to do. It could be divided up over several years and not paid all at once. But it depends on how big you want to go. My decision package was on the higher end because I wanted to grow everything out in the past.
Very good, thank you for that. I know the city of Temple took advantage of that, and they've got a pretty good brand, I'll say. And so I think that'd be good for us. The second thing I would advocate for is a library master plan. And this will be the last thing. We have not put a focus on libraries in the last several years, especially since I've been here. That's no one's fault, but I do think we should look farther than just what we have downtown and future libraries and see how we can build up the library system. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. With the rebranding program, that was something that Councilmember Boyd, Councilmember Solomon, and Councilmember Cobb had requested last year. So all three of y'all had requested that. And Councilwoman Gunn. I was gonna get to her. I'm sorry, I was reading something, but no. So 4 people did request that. Mayor Pro Tem, Councilwoman Cobb, Councilmember Solomon, and Councilmember Boyd. The library master plan, that's a great idea. Thank you for that. Councilwoman Cobb, do you have anything?
I do. The biggest thing for me, when I look at the budget from last year, our 2025 budget, and I look, this year, and going into the 26 budget that we're looking at now, I would like to complete some of the things that we started. I'm sorry. There's a lot of different things that I think that we need to do some completion on. Let's have some 0% before we go into those things. Let's start from the end and move towards the front. Of course I want the roads to be done. Of course I want our city streets and the different ones, the sidewalks, and some of those things that are important to our citizens. But I want to complete it. I want to sometimes go and say, we have 0 work left on it. So I want to look back at all those things that I asked to let us put ahead and make it in. I don't wanna go there always saying, well, we gotta finish. I don't wanna gotta finish nothing. It's done. I'm moving to this. And I wanna have some leftover money. I think it's so important. I really do, to always just steal it from jumping from work to work.
Anything else?
That's it.
Yes, ma'am.
Always
Well, with our, maintenance, I think, I don't want to misquote anybody. Mr. Reynolds or Councilmember Board stated, okay, Mr. Cagle, it could have been Councilmember Cigar, that we already have those things in place,
Yes.
but the manpower and money. And he had made a statement that we will not have enough money right now if we want to finish all of it. But that is still our priority, correct, Mr. Cable? We're doing that right now.
Yes, ma'am, and they're
Yeah.
funded.
It's funded from
Yes, ma'am.
2025.
But I want it to end.
Oh, we're not there
I wanna go
yet.
into a budget with a project. I wanna go into the budgets with an open mind, knowing that there's gonna be some money left over. Knowing that we can
I see
always
what
add.
you're saying. I see what you're
I don't wanna leave with a $101 bill.
Yes, ma'am, I see
I
what
want the
you're saying.
$101 bill to be gone and say, well, you know what? We have $2 million, let's get with it.
Yes, ma'am.
That's how I want it to go.
Yes, ma'am. I misunderstood you. Yes, ma'am, we do have, funding for our upcoming, projects for the maintenance. And it will come out, okay, I understand. Yes, ma'am. So the maintenance fee should take care of that, the
Okay.
infrastructure. Yes, ma'am.
Let's just get it done, let's just clear it up.
Yes,
I don't
ma'am.
have to talk about it, I want it to be over.
Yes, ma'am.
No pull me to the side.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
My top priority, I'll wait till I go last, but Councilmember Solomon. Oh, I'm sorry, he's so quiet. Councilmember Alvarez.
Seeing what we just saw, I think my number one priority would be to wait till we come back with a balanced budget before I start naming off wish list items that may or may not be realistic. If I was to name one, it would be employee pay and compensation. I know that's really important. I know we talked about this in the last budget cycle, and I think staff was working on a salary survey for employees. I know we did one when I worked for the city of Killeen, and it was very insightful because it shows, you know, if you've got blue collar workers, are they paid on average with the market? Are they underpaid? Are they overpaid? Same thing with higher level positions. What do those look like? Are they staying competitive? So if we really want to address employee pay and compensation, we have to have a reference point. And I think without the results of that salary survey would definitely help provide that insight. Move forward from there, work on a balanced budget, and then come back and see if there's anything left, then we can talk about wish list items.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. I think Councilmember Cigar did a great job on, and maybe I didn't say it clearly, that our priority from the jump will always be salary, the COLA, the civil service, and their health care. So you're right, that study, I agree with you, that study should be done so we can move forward with that. And what we're saying, we do understand, council, and I know you do, but I want to make sure for the records in black and white and people who record that we know that this is something that we want to make as a top priority, but the reality is we know this may not happen with what we just saw up here. And we all will agree that our employees come first. Is that right? Everybody agree to that. So I don't want people to think that we're just throwing stuff, but the employees come first. And if there's something left, then let's come back and see out of what we're pushing, if we can come together collectively and push one. So these are just things that you want to share, knowing that what come first, our employees, the safety, stuff like that, infrastructure. Okay, want to be clear. All right, now, are you finished, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, did we get that study? Because that is, Mr. K, we did, have we even started something like that? Can somebody speak up?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Okay, thank you.
It's basically complete. We have a little
Oh.
review to do of it, but we'll be presenting it to the council before too long.
Okay, all right. Ms. good. Thank you for bringing that up. That's good.
Yeah, I too agree, I like to see a balanced budget before. This is more of just a desire and wish list. With me, just a couple of things, but only if you have a balanced budget. And if there's any pile left. Stagecoach, you gave us the update on the Stagecoach, and I'd like to get an update on Zephyr Road up in the north. I don't know where the priority with that. I know it's on the list, but I don't know if we can raise that up.
Yes, sir, it's actually number one on the list now, so
Okay, good.
the additional money that comes in to the street maintenance fund, we will use, as that comes in to finish, correct me if I'm wrong, to finish Stagecoach. And then it's, before too long, we should be able to issue an engineering contract for Zephyr Road. It is the next on the list to be rebuilt.
Right, I knew it was there.
Yes, sir.
But that's good, that's good.
And I'm very hopeful that we will be able to jump into phase 2 of Stagecoach sooner than we anticipate.
And then on the potholes, I know Public Works, they do an excellent job in what they do, Mr. Reynolds' team. But this is on the side of communication. I don't know how, I know we've got communication going. I think we can go on the website and they can show where the potholes are fixed. Is that correct, Mr. Reynolds?
Yes, sir, they have a C-click fix, that makes it go, take the biggest pothole, so they go straight to the department, to the division, and we respond to 24 hours.
But is there other ways that we can communicate with the citizens, like on the TV?
Communication, that's Colleen Connect.
Yes, ma'am.
That's Colleen Connect he's talking about. And, communication is Miss Janelle.
Do we advertise, hey, you can track what we're doing, what Public Works is doing on Connect?
Yes, sir.
What has
And-
already been done? I
Yes.
know the roads are advertised, but I'm talking about like what repairs that have been done on the road.
Can we do that on Channel 10, like show them step by step how to do Colleen Connect?
Yes, ma'am, and yes, sir.
Is that similar to what you want, Councilmember Solomon?
Say again?
On Channel 10, we have
10,
Spectrum,
yes.
and you can show them all the resources that we have on there?
Yes, yes.
Something like that?
Yes, so we can do all that. C-Click Fix and Colleen Connect are the same, but we just, every city kind of renames it, but it is C-Click Fix. And so it is, we can put another round of information out because it is about time. It came out a couple years ago, and we did a whole how-to. It's been on Channel 10. It's been sent to, it's been all over our websites,
Yeah.
as well as social media, and sent to all the news stations, and they put it on their websites as well and their social media. We've had, more than 1,000 who have actually participated in it, so we could definitely do another round of that because it has been a while. It goes out in the water bills. We put it out
Good.
about 3 times a year at least, to remind people that they can do that. So it goes in the water bills, goes in our newsletters. They announce it on the radio stations, TV stations, and social media and websites. But we can definitely, it is an app-free download app,
Okay.
but it is also on our website at
I have that app.
cleantexas.gov/ColeenConnect.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Ms. Ford. Also, there's a Holland Park, Holland Street and Veterans. There's a park right there.
It's a community park off Veterans by Church's Chicken.
Right.
It's in the cut.
Yes, on Holland.
It's in Highland, I think it's Highland Park or Highland. I think it's Highland Park.
I'm thinking about-
No, it's Highland. It's in District 2. It's right when you come off Zephyr, it's between KFC and 38th Street. It's in the cut. By the old Margaret Heights Church. Okay, he got where it's at.
Yeah, if we could take a look at that and see how, is it possible to do some improvements on that? Because it's bare, I've been there, it's just an open, I don't know if we need more trees up in that thing, or more seating, more activities,
designation that they had made with the grant.
Maybe?
I think so, some kind of
Is it-
grant designation, or they
Yeah.
weren't cutting the grass, and I think they went back, start cutting on that grass.
Right, it had been overlooked.
Yeah.
And they-
It was just.
That's a
the
part they
native
Yeah,
use.
land.
the native land, yeah. And
And
that,
maybe that's why they didn't build stuff,
Yes.
activity, for kids over there. I know what you're talking
Because it's just bare. It's, I mean,
You
it
go
has some
back to the
seating,
top
but it's just
one.
not, but it's a nice spot.
it is.
People, they can come right out from the neighborhood and use that park, and they do. But I think it would be good if we had more activities on that, better scenery if we can. And that's not a lot to do for, but, you know,
I know they needed water fountains and little things.
They already did that.
They did the water
Yeah,
fountains?
that's taken.
Okay.
that's just about it. One other thing, at the neighborhood watch, concerning the safety, chief, in terms of, I started the neighborhood watch in our neighborhood, it's working well, we get ready to put, thanks to Mr. Reynolds, we get ready to put the neighborhood watch signs up and everything. But is there a way that we could really push this in communication to our, I know we have a night out every year, but throughout the rest of the year, do we advertise about neighborhood watch in terms of safety and connecting even with the new program that you guys got now with the cameras?
No, we could advertise it more. We restarted the Neighborhood Watch program back in November of 2024. So now we use an app to track all our volunteer hours. We have about 30 citizens that regularly participate in the program, but I could provide you the stats on how many hours and where they arrive at.
Right, I was just thinking in terms of communication, getting with some of the churches and organizations and saying, hey, this is a program that we have, you know,
Yes, sir.
nonprofits, whatever, you know, that we could really push that, because I think it's just really a good program.
Yes, sir. I got it now.
It's just, I think it's communicating. So that's just about all I have. That's not a.
Councilman Solomon, in my understanding, what I wrote with the neighborhood watch, you want the police department outreach team to reach out to churches and nonprofit organizations
Yes.
to see can they come speak there? And this is for people taking notes, well, she's taking notes, that's one reason I want to make sure clear,
Yeah,
that what we say is clear.
Right, if the
So-
representative of Neighborhood Watch, and they're really good up there, I've been there, talked with them.
Oh, yeah.
And they could reach out to the churches and organizations, and probably the churches, because we have so many churches in this area, that if someone can come and speak to the congregation, or speak to the pastor, or, you know, one of the ministers there, and at least let them know about that, that might work, you know.
Are you okay with sending something in the mail out to them? And, because you know, police officers, you know, they only got one outreach person.
Yeah, I mean, however they can communicate, they don't have to call, however the communication is set up in terms of sending something in the mail, however they do the outreach communication.
Ms. Wilson, you have that in the notes? I know you're a note taker, I got it.
I think that we just need to reach out to them more.
Yes, sir.
And for non-Christians, you suggest that we just
He
send
said
it in the mail?
nonprofit, not organization.
Yeah.
He did say
Not
that, all
just churches, but
organizations.
Okay, I
organizations.
just want to make sure,
Yeah.
say it kind of loud.
Yeah, I mean, even like I'm saying, to the chamber, or to the Hispanic chamber, to different places, you can go on with.
Yes, sir. That's it, Councilman?
That's it, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
So I want to be clear that I definitely support city initiatives, and I understand the nature of where we are with the financials, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, that's given. On the successes, I just want to be clear that we have done a lot. We've done a lot in the last 3 years. A lot of good things have been done. So between fire, PD, thank you for confirming that, but also emergency management, reprioritizing Rancier, public works, enhancements, revitalization to downtown, substations, engagement units. I mean, there's been a lot of good things that we have done. So we should be proud of everything that we've accomplished, understanding where we are today. Mr. Cagle, before I start though, my concern is I just want to make sure, like, so if something, we don't know, there's a lot of questions about federal grants and things like that that could happen, right? We understand that we don't know, it's uncharted territory at this point. Are we going to, will there be an emergency meeting, or what does that look like in the event that we do lose certain federal fundings? Because obviously, a lot of that would impact certain elements of some of the things that we're trying to, our initiatives that we're working on. Will we have, what does that look like in the event that something does take place like that, and we do run the risk of losing federal grants or funding?
Well, I mean, you either stop doing what the grant funds, or you find another way to fund it. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Right.
So it's going to vary. If CDBG goes away, well, a lot of that are funds that we distribute to the community. Are we going to continue to do that, or the only other option at that point is to use general fund money?
Right. So not to be fearful, but we do need to have this conversation as a reality of things.
Yes.
Because in the event that we do lose the federal funding, this conversation that we're having as far as our executives budgeting, it is important that they know where we're coming from and what our initiatives are, whether we can accomplish them or not is understood, but I think it's extremely important that we keep that in the conversation as well, just in case. So I've got a couple things on here. We mentioned before the water and sewer line rehab projects, water main rehabs. Those are already in motion, right? Those are already in place. So I just want to make sure that does stay on the record as far as an important initiative with our basic plans to address our aging infrastructure. So I just want to make sure
Yes, ma'am.
that
Just
stays.
to reiterate that they should continue essentially forever.
Correct.
Forever program.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
We also talked about, and it's interesting that you mentioned the reimagining, I call it reimagining of our library systems. There was a great program from several cities that have done some really cool things with the libraries as far as enhancing them, making them more interactive, adding playscapes and partnering with your school districts to give kids an opportunity to work within those spaces, but then also partnering with the business community for Business Resource Center. Now we know that our Business Resource Center closed, but working through the library and creating shared workspaces could also be an opportunity there. So having some sort of reimagining of our library system, so that could come through that master plan and ultimately, right? So that I am a fan and in favor of looking into that at least to see what that would look like for our community. We have the Cultural Arts District was mentioned. I know this has been in the works and conversations before. For me, after having been to National League of Cities, this was hands down another opportunity for our municipality to create another revenue stream, right? So other communities are actually using their cultural arts district as a revenue generator. And it's the cultural arts, it's not just music, it's not just arts, it actually ties back into art therapy, history. I mean, there's so many other things, beautification projects and things like that. So having a viable cultural arts district is extremely important, and it could be another tool for economic development. So thank you, Mrs. McNair, for mentioning that KCC is already working on that. You have that in process. I am going to help champion that 1,000% because that is another economic driver in like 100 different ways. It was so cool. So I think that that's very important that we keep that as a focus. As another stream potentially of income. Plus there's state initiatives and funding that also come to the city as a result of that. Grant writing, we've mentioned that I think every year since I've been here as far as grant writing. I don't think that I do agree with you, Mr. Cagle, we said that one grant writer was not sufficient, but through like the EDC, for example, there are grant writing agencies.
Yes.
So having some sort of mechanism to set aside for grant writing agencies, I think is going to be essential to helping our other departments. We've got some that are just great at generating these additional grant opportunities for the city, but I do think having an agent set aside somewhere for that will be essential, especially if they don't go away over the next couple of years. Then that's going to be crucial to helping us, since we don't have a very big pot, is identifying every other resource where we can collect from. The police community stations, one of the initiatives we had. Now we've got our substation back, we've got in the downtown district that came back, so thank you to everyone for working with us with that in the engagement unit. But community police stations in our local firehouses was something else that was a conversation I just want to keep on the table. Not necessarily a priority right this moment, but definitely want to keep it in our books. And then lastly, the big one, elephant in bush, two of them, the grocery situation. And then I do not know what this looks like, but I do think that along with our housing We should be having a 10-year affordable housing comprehensive plan or some sort of conversation about what that looks like on truly affordable housing. Now, with the grocery store, so we put out an Ms. Wilson, it was RFQ on that one that we did for the grocery. And we didn't get, there was initially no response on that initially. When we start looking at, I know the city's not in the business of starting and running grocery stores, I get that, but we were talking about this potential development that could enhance that opportunity for an operator to facilitate. So one of the things we talked about as it relates to that was a larger scale store, and then scale tapering down to a box, boutique type store, which is like 15,000 square feet and under, right? I don't know that proposal focused on the boutique style. I think we originally focused on a big box still. I don't
Ross, can
recall.
you speak to that a little bit, what size was included in our RFQ?
I don't know that we've gotten as far as contemplating size. I think we were just trying to generate any interest at all and didn't really generate that. So I think we're open to any.
So I would like to revisit, yes, thank you. I'd like to revisit that development with a smaller boutique style grocery under the 20,000 square foot. If we did not specify that before, that should definitely have been it.
I think just what Wallace was trying to say, we left it wide open as possible, so
And even still-
so if somebody did want something of a big box or part of a different development, or a small, very small single store, and make clear that we're willing to participate significantly in anything to get a grocery store in your park.
And then the 10-year, the comprehensive plan for affordable housing, is that something that, do you have anything on that as far as, because the conversation of the mixed-use housing and affordable housing still is very important to our area, it's obviously still a need. Do you have anything as it relates to that as far as our priority focus should be?
So as we had submitted the pro housing application, that was a grant last year, what we found is that as far as what was available for the city of Killeen, even going back to your 2040 comprehensive plan, there is a subsection on housing, but there is a growing need across the United States, and most municipalities actually do have a housing strategy and plan to figure out what are the steps that they're going to do to either support and sustain their current affordable housing, like the city of Killeen has a list of approximately 11 affordable housing communities here now, and then a priority or a plan to increase the housing stock for affordable housing. And by affordable housing, I am speaking on households whose incomes are at or below 80% the area median income. We do know, generally speaking, Killeen is an affordable place to live. It's made a lot of lists for being one of the most affordable, but we're speaking to our populations that are probably on the cusp of, if they miss 2-3 days of work and it changes that paycheck, they are potentially facing eviction. Some of our city employees, since I got here, have tried to apply for certain newer housing and were not income eligible for it. So just developing a plan as this population grows for this city, that we're able to meet the housing needs for everybody across income.
Thank you. That's pretty much my major budget concerns. Thank you.
All right, I just don't know what to say. I mean, that negative 2 million just wow. So, Councilmember Adams.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Ms. King, I like that we continue to do the conservative approach to budgeting, accepting the lower amount for income, but expecting a higher expenses. That helps with some of the surplus, I guess. But as we go forward, and I still last year support the rebranding campaign. But as we look at infrastructure, I know we have the ADA issue, and we talked about projects finishing. We can make some headway on that as you look at the budget. And I understand the forecast for the negative, but when you look at, put that on the priority. Debt service, because we have issued a couple of bonds, and I think we need and I think since you've been here, you have aggressively paid off debt to get to the AAA rating. I'd like to keep us at that rating, if not close to it, because we don't know what tomorrow will bring with where the market is. And with staff saying our personnel, and we're already decided the personnel is a priority, but also look at leveraging technology to where, if some type of piece of technology decrease the need of hiring 5 people, it works. I'm not saying replace.
Sure.
For those folks that are anti-AI or technology. I'm not saying that. In the last year, you've done that. And then, we talked about whether it's through the budget or through grants, because grants eventually come into the budget, support for the low income and the unhoused residents, plus the programs that support them, even if it's to incentivize the public and the private organizations or nonprofits to do things. And also with that, because it's kind of tied together, economic development incentives for local businesses and then outside businesses, and that kind of produce more jobs, because that's going to address the low income. So as we look at the budget coming up, if we can, I don't have any specific projects this time, but if as you start to shape it so we fit within those numbers, if you can consider those. That's all I have.
Mayor Pro Tem, you had talked about a grant writer. A lot of these grants I keep hearing, we already got a partnership with Central Texas Texas College and also with Texas A&M. They have students. Why don't they do an intern? They write grants. Some of the stuff that I'm hearing, first of all, we're already doing. Let's get that clear. Infrastructure, parks. Thank you for looking at that. Mr. Murphy, his passion for parks, I'm sure he will get with you. And whatever they can do that's cost effective, and he will assist with that to help you out. And some of the things we can do in-house, it's just stuff we can do. And that park has been neglected for a while. It's over there and it's in the cut. So there are some things that the city can do, and I thank council for, taking out your day to come here and give just some that's all they are is recommendations. But we don't know. And staff, I thank everyone that participated when I asked questions, that you're so knowledgeable in everything that you do, and you're such a team player when it comes to council, that you're always available to assist us, and not only assist us with council. So my priorities are really the priorities of whatever we can pay for. That's my priority. I'm shocked. I'm blown away. Yeah, I'm serious. I've never been in this position. I think I came after Sagara came in his situation, but yeah. I feel like anything I say, it would be come across as if it was selfish. And a grocery store has always been my passion. That's the one thing that this council, the one thing that we all agreed upon. And one of the residents said something that stayed with me. It's not that we're pushing for the north side all the time, but the north side is so behind. When we came on, it was behind. And people ask us if people that don't pay their taxes, people that get up every day 8 to 5 to go to work to provide for their family, that they don't deserve the same quality of life as the rest of the residents in Kalane. It's not that we're trying to show favoritism. That's not the reality of it. But we want their income and their quality of life to be just as good as all other residents in Kalane that do pay tax. You gotta invest. The common sense test is if you don't have the business and the infrastructure put in place on the north side, we're not getting a grocery store. And I love what Councilmember Alvarez said. My parents live there. This is a person, Councilwoman Gonzalez lived there. I have friends and that retired here many years ago live here. And we really need to get serious. If it happens to come out of capital improvement and shift some stuff around and get our KEDC in any chamber or any entity that is willing, not that staff have not, and Ms. Wilson, I thank you, We gotta get a grocery store. All this other stuff, it was good to hear y'all say it. Thank you very much. But the priority for this council, in my opinion, that we know Councilmember Boyd chose not to run again, and he started off with us on this one, is that grocery store. And it may not be your priority, but I just can't be in good conscience that we're gonna try to support a city hall. And everybody on this table should just come together. Parks is important, I agree with you, that's my district, and it is what it is, but we can do that from in-house. It's something that they have over there, go out there, draw some lines, put something up, put a soccer field, something simple, and you know, they can do it. But I just don't feel comfortable. I want a city hall, but how can we tell the residents to vote for something if we don't put a good, not that we have not, but an effort to get a grocery store? They'll make it seem like that's not a priority. And we know it is. It's not like we didn't try.
Right.
But I don't think we're gonna get it to the scale of expectation people want. I like Leslie, Texas, and she got a small store. It may not even be on city property. It may be just a vacant building downtown to bring something that she has the opposite of on that level. I don't even know if we can do that. I'm not trying to say 8 million, 5 million, it may not even be 1 million, because I know we can't afford it. But I think if we really want people to buy into anything we want to sell, we have to buy into them. And I'm not trying to say make that your priority, I would hope it would be, but if you don't. Mr. Kaga, thank you. You are shockingly honest with this forecast. And I know the council has the authority to do whatever we want, I understand that. And I understand cost of living, tax exemption. You always talked about the DV tax exemption. And today, the reality hit me in my face. That shocked me. And we're depending on the state to do right by us. And we cannot neglect them because they do get tax exemption being a veteran. That's gotta be a priority. You go to a grocery store, that's one, but we have to make up for the money that we lost. We cannot go back. So, do we have anything else for the good of the group? Councilmember Boyd?
Sure. I appreciate that we're having a discussion about the north side. Very important that continues to get prioritized, especially Zephyr Road. It wasn't until I really drove down that road, it really hit me. I said, this is almost as bad as Watercrest and Bunny Trail. So I hope going forward, this council accelerates Zephyr Road because it absolutely needs it. You talking about the people who need to buy in on the north side, that's a real thing. We're asking for the votes, we're hoping for their support, we're talking about what we want to do downtown. They got to buy in by seeing us really looking after them. The grocery store deal, that's truly a challenge. In my commercial real estate work, I was trying to see what might be possible. One of the things I do is site selection. I was in communication with Dollar General. We were close, I can say this now, to getting a DG Market established in Northeast Cleveland. I can't tell you where, but with the metrics they use, kind of reflective of what you just mentioned, didn't necessarily qualify. So there's some things that we have to do at the city level to bring enough attention for folks to really consider us here. So that's a real issue, whether the city's going after it, organizations, or independent folks. Last thing I wanted to ask, and this is very relevant, the PFC. I remember when the PFC was first introduced, and I can hear a sidebar in the back. The PFC, when it was first introduced, we were told there's a forecast of funding that's coming over the next 1 to, I think, 7 years. And I think year 4, so there was a big payout. And then there was an option if they did sell the PFC, or if the property sold, there was like several millions that would come down. So I guess what I'm asking is, where are we on the amount in the PFC account, and what is the forecast for what might be coming?
Sure. Just off the top of my head, you're right, that big amount's tied to a sale. So if they sell it, that's where there would be a one-time revenue. If they don't sell it, that one-time revenue's not there. But it's, like 90,000 a year, something like that. I think Judith's over there trying to
I'm
pull it
trying to
up.
look correct, yes.
But,
Okay.
but it's somewhere in that $90,000 range.
Okay, okay. Yeah, because, I mean, that is, of course, that would have to be reallocated as a whole nother transaction, whole nother discussion, but we do have the PFC that does exist. So,
Yes, sir.
as a reminder, that's it.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Councilman Sagal?
Since we're talking about grocery store, and, you know, I think it's an education process, because a lot of people that I talk to that want a grocery store, after I have a conversation and explain why it really is that we don't have a grocery store, they have an understanding. And first thing, you know, you always have to separate private from government entities, and the grocery store is a private, it's something private that the government doesn't control, and they're a profit center. They gotta make money. And so a lot of people out there think that the city council can put a grocery store, that's not gonna happen. I don't think they would like us, if it's not making money, to use their funds to recoup the loss of a grocery store. And so it is, as I always say, it's an education process, but a lot of times there's a lot of misconceptions out there. And, you know, comparing that to a city hall that is a government entity, and you try to mix that all together, that's what's gonna happen. And so that gets back to what we were talking about when we did the city hall, an education process to the consumer, and let them know that, you know, this is why we need it, the city hall and all that. But it all comes down to them wanting to make money, and part of that is through the PFC. The PFC, and one of the comments were made, and I like how she really understood what was happening in downtown from one of our businesses. She says she needs foot traffic. You know, she needs people to come into business. We can put the best bakery in the world downtown, but if you're gonna have foot traffic, I can only eat cakes maybe once a month. You need to have enough people shopping on a daily basis. Just because I say you have the best cookies in the world does not mean you should go down and open up a bakery in downtown, because you don't have the foot traffic, you know, unless you want to get extremely big, eating cookies every day. And that's the same thing with the grocery store. And when I explain to people, we just need more people down there. HEB had a building paid off. They didn't have no, and they were losing $40,000 a month. And that's from a $1 billion company. It wasn't because they were getting robbed every day. It wasn't, they're a big company, but because they did not have enough people shopping there. You got a building paid off, and we're looking for somebody that put a building to start paying off a building. And so, you know, we just explain that in a sense, people really understand that it's not our job to put a grocery store. We're gonna do everything we can, obviously, to put one down there through our zoning, our incentives. But we cannot be private enterprise owners and put a grocery store down there. The only thing we can do is try to help put more foot traffic, as our city manager did with that PFC. That was, I think, one of the best projects we've done out there. It's still growing. They put over 360 apartments down there. I would like to see more of those projects, because they cost the city how much? Zero. And it put a lot of people in downtown. So we want to help downtown, and we've got to figure out ways to put more people, because it's been locked in. It's blocked in. So we got to go up. We can't go this way like the south side. We got to go up. And you got to put people down there that can live down there, that can walk to the nearest coffee shop and say, that's why I'm going to that coffee shop, because I live just around the corner. So, all right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
In all things, get understanding. Madam Assistant City Manager, please note this. We can get a grocery store. The city can give incentives through KEDC and through any other entity is willing to work with us to bring in a grocery store. I said personally, I don't feel good. I can't speak for the council when it comes to a city hall. I want a city hall. But we should put forth an effort with the resources that we have, not us running it. Just like any other big business we got in that industrial park with the incentives that we request, we can do that for somebody that's bringing in a grocery store. Foot traffic is important. That's why we have the best team when it comes to downtown events. And I thank those private partners that invest in our downtown. Ms. Kay, and Mr. Lavelle, and I think Miss, I don't know who's in charge of it now. Miss Meshner, are you somewhere in there? Are you a part of it too? Oh, okay. I know Mr. Lavelle was. They do a great job. I'm not trying to push my agenda on you, on how I feel personally. But that is just something, everybody gave their priorities, that's just mine. So whichever one y'all choose to do as a council, because I don't vote, I will support you. With that being said, can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor, yes, all opposed, no.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.